The Torment of the Painted Leeches. Title: The Torment of the Painted Leeches. The valley of Elderglen was a place of serene beauty, where the sun painted golden strokes across the lush fields, and the wind whispered through the tall trees. It was a land of peace, where animals roamed freely, grazing in harmony with the rhythm of nature. Among them was a majestic horse named Solace, whose coat gleamed like polished chestnut under the sun. Solace was known for his strength, speed, and the way his mane danced in the wind like a banner of freedom. But one summer, something insidious crept into the valley. It began with a peculiar sight, a strange mist clinging to the rivers and ponds. The birds grew restless, the smaller creatures darted away from the water, and an eerie silence replaced the usual cheerful hum of nature. Soon, Solace felt an itch on his legs. At first, he ignored it, assuming it was merely a nuisance, an insect bite or a brush against some stray thorns. Days passed and the irritation intensified. When he finally looked down, he saw them, tiny, colorful creatures, no bigger than a pebble latched onto his skin. They were leeches, but unlike any seen before, they shimmered with iridescent hues, red, green, blue, and even gold. Their bodies pulsed as they fed, growing plumper with every passing moment. Panic gripped Solace as he tried to shake them off, but they clung to him with a grip far too strong for their size. He galloped to the river, plunging himself into the water, hoping to wash them away. But instead of loosening their grip, more leeches swarmed onto him from the depths. The water had become their domain, their breeding ground, and Solace had unknowingly walked straight into their trap. He thrashed and kicked, his once powerful strides now frantic and weak. Exhausted, he stumbled out of the river, his body heavier than before, as the leeches continued to spread. The infestation worsened. They latched onto his belly, his flanks, his legs, and even his face. His once proud mane was tangled with them, and his tail lost its strength. Solace, the swift and mighty, found himself unable to move as he once did. Each step was agony. The weight of the leeches pulled at his skin, their constant sucking draining his strength. His muscles, once rippling with power, now quivered with weakness. His breath came in short gasps as exhaustion seeped into his bones. Eating became a battle. The leeches clung to his muzzle, creeping into his nostrils and lips. Every attempt to graze was met with searing pain, the leeches tightening their grip whenever he tried to pull grass into his mouth. Hunger gnawed at him, but the pain was unbearable. His ribs, once hidden beneath a layer of healthy muscle, began to show. The proud glint in his eyes dulled as the suffering became his only reality. Sleep was an impossible dream. The leeches never stopped feeding, their movements a constant reminder of his torment. They crawled over his eyelids, into his ears, their bodies writhing and pulsating as they gorged on his lifeblood. The darkness of night brought no solace. Instead, it magnified his suffering. The cool air only served to make the wounds on his body sting even more. He would try to lie down, but the pressure of the leeches made even the ground feel like a bed of needles. Other animals began to avoid him. His once loyal herd hesitated to come near, their instincts warning them of the unnatural plague that had taken hold of him. The birds no longer sang in his presence. The deer and rabbits that once played nearby vanished. Solace was alone in his misery, abandoned by the world he had once ruled with grace and strength. Weeks turned into a month. His legs trembled under his own weight. The leeches, now swollen and grotesque, showed no signs of releasing him. He tried scraping against trees, rolling in the dirt, even rubbing against rocks, but nothing freed him. His once glossy coat was now matted, covered in scabs and dried blood. The life that had once burned within him flickered like a dying candle. The valley itself seemed to wither in his agony. The grass turned brittle where he stood. The riverbanks grew eerily still, no longer alive with the sounds of nature. It was as if the land, too, was suffering alongside him. A cruel fate, as if the leeches had spread their curse beyond just his body. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, a traveler came upon the valley. A woman, dressed in a flowing cloak, carrying with her the knowledge of the old ways. She saw Solace, his suffering laid bare before her, and her heart ached for the once magnificent creature. She approached cautiously, whispering soothing words, her presence gentle and unwavering. She examined him, recognizing the unnatural nature of the leeches. With a practiced hand, she reached into her satchel and withdrew a vial of thick, pungent oil. Kneeling beside him, she began to rub the substance onto his skin. The moment the oil touched them, the leeches recoiled, their colorful bodies writhing in distress. Slowly, one by one, they began to release their hold. Solace, though weak, stood still, sensing that relief was near. The woman continued her work, covering every inch of his body with the repelling oil. The leeches fell to the ground, shriveling as the substance rendered them powerless. The colors that once gleamed so brilliantly dulled as they withered into nothingness. It took hours, but at last, the last leech dropped away. Solace collapsed in exhaustion, his body finally free from the torment. The woman stayed by his side, tending to his wounds, nursing him back from the brink of death. She fed him small amounts, careful not to overwhelm his weakened stomach. Days passed, and strength slowly returned to him. As the leeches vanished from the valley, life began to return. The birds sang once more, the trees whispered their ancient songs, and the air grew light with the promise of renewal. Solace, though scarred, stood once more. He was not as fast as before, nor as powerful, but he had survived. He had endured the nightmare and lived to see the dawn. And so, he ran once more, not as the unchallenged ruler of the valley, but as a testament to the resilience of life itself. The painted leeches had tried to take him, but he had fought, and he had won.